We are celebrated for the unique being that we are and our unique path. Yeah, my name's Amanda, and I want to tell you about I call it a near death like experience. So in 2017, I was a passenger in a car. I was with my ex partner. He was driving, and we were driving on a high mountain road in Canada, and our car lost control because another car kind of came in our lane. So we had to swerve. And in that, we just spun out of control and we hit another car. We ended up landing upside down. The roof crushed, and the front half of the car was dangling over the edge of a cliff, and then the back half was on the roadside. So kind of like a teeter totter, like a seesaw. And what happened for me, even though those were kind of like the real life facts of what happened for me was something that would change my life forever. So I had worked as a paramedic for many years in that area, and it's very well known for cars crashing and then going over the edge. It's like so common. Not many people survive. So even if you're driving pretty slowly, there's still a big risk. And as soon as we lost control, in that very split second, I believed we're going over the edge, we're going to die. It was like there was this sure feeling like this is the last second of my life. And I don't know why, but instinctively, I closed my eyes, I relaxed my muscles, I leaned back in my seat, and I just prepared. And as soon as I did that, I, for the first time in my life, left my body. So the first thing that I noticed was that I didn't have my five senses about me. I couldn't see anything. I didn't have the heavy weight of my body anymore. And I never thought of it as heavy until it was gone. My hearing got really muffled. I couldn't hear anything anymore. And it was like I was suspended in a dimension that was kind of dark. I describe it as being kind of black, but not in a scary way, kind of round, safe, secure, almost pillowy or feathery. There was a softness to it. And I mean, looking back, I would kind of describe it as just like a safe. And then I started to notice that something had drastically changed in the way that I was feeling and experiencing. There was no longer any guardedness, there was no fear, there was no anxiety, there was no awkwardness. There was all these things that I was just so used to coming and going in life. And up there was just full peace. There was just full safety, full security. It was as though some of those other things would never survive or make it to this place where I had suddenly showed up. And then when I kind of adjusted a little bit to where I was, I felt what I call the presence. It was like a surrounding presence that it was really obvious that I wasn't alone here at first. And I couldn't quite tell if it was the presence of one being or one person, or whether it was many because I was in the darkness. But then as I adjusted more, I realized I've been through here before. I know who is here. I know who and what is surrounding me. I don't need to see it to know. And what or who that was, that presence, was the presence of the higher self of all people who have ever lived, angels, the highest divine parts of all creation, even plants, animals. And there was a oneness, there was a connectivity in that place because I realize now the only thing that really separates us is our ego and is our kind of lower nature down here on earth. But when we drop those things, we're actually in total connection and resonance with everyone else. So up in this level, without all this garbage, there was this full acceptance, this full remembrance and reunion, and this full knowing that we are all connected, that we are all precious, that we are all sacred. And there was no rejection, there was no judgment, there was no condemnation or accusation, even from like myself to myself, you know? It was like I was good with me because now I remember who I am. And all of this presence, they're good with me too, because they definitely know who I am. And so for this short time, I was in their vibration without my earth junk. And I was able to remember who I really was. And who I really was had nothing to do with my personality, with my physical appearance, with my life history on earth as a paramedic, as a wife, as a woman. Who I am and who I have been is an eternal being with very specific qualities that show up in my earth incarnations. This is what I realize now. And so those qualities that I noticed while I was in this dimension were innocence, curiosity, self acceptance, self love, self compassion, and deep courage. And again, Earth life was totally on pause, but it was like I was kind of going through these realizations and insights one by one in the spirit world. And back to this presence and this reconnection with what I call God or all that is, I felt for the first time in my life true home. And there was this understanding that any actions or behaviors or mistakes on earth happen because we're on the other side of a veil. We're on the other side of a curtain that's full of forgetfulness, that's, yeah, forgetfulness basically. And when we forget that connection and we're disconnected from it in our earth life, we can act out, we can be frightened, and we can, do hurtful things to ourselves and other people. But up there, we understand that. And so there's so much grace. There's so much understanding because from up there, we see the curtain in between up here and down there. And we see from this higher perspective all the forgetfulness and all of the mistakes. And we're like, of course, of course we would do confusing things when we can't remember these qualities. We can't remember who we really are. Up in the spirit world, everything is clear. It's so clear that all human beings are my brothers and sisters. I've known them for millions of years, and there's a full acceptance and love for each other. If we want to experience something or see something, we just use our awareness and we focus on that, and that's where we go or what we see. That's really great. And it sounds like, oh, like let's just go and do that forever. It sounds so wonderful. But there's no growth and there's no evolution when you're operating like that. When you've got everything figured out and you're just kind of like doing that, you have no challenge. And so coming to earth, coming to a dimension that's on the other side of the curtain, it allows us as pure, innocent, curious spirits to have a temporary experience where we see, can I remember that I am love and innocence, even with that curtain? And maybe in the midst of some pretty deep and terrible challenges, can I still hold my ground, love myself, and have compassion for even the harshest people around me? And eventually I'm going to die, and eventually I'm going to go back to the spirit world. And I want to be able to go back there and say, that was pretty intense. But I remembered love for myself. I remembered compassion for my brothers and sisters, even when they weren't acting like brothers and sisters. And then this is how we evolve. A lot of my life, I have dealt with really high levels of insecurity, questioning my worth and my value, comparing myself to other people, and feeling like I couldn't live up to standards that my family or society seemed to have without blame on them. That's how life had been for me and still is sometimes. But after my car accident and near death experience, and knowing that actually none of that stuff matters, on the other side, when we go, we don't need to be perfectly beautiful, perfectly intelligent with straight A's. We don't need to have all those things in order to be known, accepted, and loved. We are celebrated for the unique being that we are and our unique path and our innocence. It's only on earth that, our culture and our society and some of our families have unrealistically high expectations that might not even have anything to do with who we're supposed to be. And so I feel like for myself and for other souls that have dealt with insecurity and not measuring up, it could be good to get a little curious and wonder if the path that society is and family is expressing to us is really what our goals are supposed to be. And that's a long journey and that's really scary. But I would say it's the journey that for me has been the most worth it. And I have lost would say some friends. I've lost some family members who disagree with that thinking, who don't understand, and who are judgmental. But those losses are worth it because I can gain who I really am. So back to the things that art and other things that I had been afraid of trying, and just had beliefs like, that's not me. I could never do that. That's for talented people that are born artists. I started to think, is that really true? Or is that just one of my fearful, insecure ideas, one of my millions of fearful, insecure ideas about myself, limited beliefs? And so I remember pretty clearly, I think it was a couple months after my accident, waking up and seeing this vase of flowers on my table and thinking to myself, this just random thought, I bet I could draw those. I have no, like, oh, I don't think I could do it. There was no limiting thoughts. I bet I could. I believe I could. Okay, I'll take your example of a job. I'm in a job I don't like. It's not lighting me up. I don't know what else to do. I feel like I'm kind of limited with options. Sometimes it's about, instead of distracting ourselves away from something, going into our addictions, numbing out, just kind of getting through it. Sometimes it's about really facing it. And so I've been in that position. And okay, I'm showing up at this job. It's bringing up feelings of just like, this is energy sucking. I have to really feel my feelings. Okay. And so I'm saying I'm opening my computer, I'm starting work, and what do I feel? I feel resentment. I feel like a failure. I feel like I would like to make more money than this. I'm worth it. I feel like by the end of today, I'm just going to be soul sucked and have no energy for things I love because I'm in a job I don't like. Ooh, that's heavy. And what does the heaviness feel like? It feels like a rock in my stomach. It feels like I might want to cry. I feel like this is never ending and it's a pain in my chest. And I'll take 5 minutes and I will really feel what I need to feel. And there's some magic in this, I promise. It doesn't happen overnight. But when we feel, the feelings that come up when we're kind of faced with anything that we really don't like about our life. This is an opportunity to clean out these blockages. So there's reasons without judgment, there's reasons why we're in stuck relationships, stuck jobs. There's reasons that we aren't quite aware of, and we're going to stay stuck in them until we really feel the harshness fully of what's there. And then after feeling those really tough feelings, and I promise you can feel them, they're not going to kill you, they're just feelings and they'll pass. Once that heaviness passes, maybe you sit with it for 3, 4, 5 minutes. Then you're creating space, you're moving these blockages, and you're creating space for the universe to bring you new opportunities that couldn't get to you before because you weren't looking at these blockages. We can't run away from it because that hasn't been working for us so far. It hasn't worked for me, maybe temporarily. But when we really feel it and we're honest and we're like, oh, my life's not perfect. This is just a piece of my life. My job is not me. It's like one sliver of the pie. But I want to get really clear on what's in that piece of pie because I don't want to live like that for the next 20 years. So it's really having the courage to feel what's there and know that there's a lot of freedom and peace on the other side when we get the courage to feel our feelings fully. Is if you just close your eyes, for 30 seconds with me, and without thinking too much, whatever pops in your head first, who could I be? I'm here temporarily on earth. One day I'm going to die and go back to the spirit world, but I have this opportunity, this challenge. Who or what could I be or express in this life if I put a pause on this loud voice of society, culture, and family, respecting them for what they are, but looking up, looking into the distance, my next 5, 10, 20 years, what could I create and embody on behalf of divinity that would make me blossom and that would be a blessing to the people around me, even if it doesn't make a lot of logical sense, even if it doesn't follow the norms of society. And with that, I would encourage anybody who, if you hear of an opportunity, if you get an idea in your head and it really lights you up, but then a few seconds later, your logic comes in and says, it's not going to work because of this. I don't have time. I don't have money, blah, 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 blah. And then you just forget about it. Pay attention to any opportunities or ideas that really light you up. And within that short window that you have of excitement, write it down, tell someone, make a deposit, make a reservation, make a commitment somehow, write someone an email to ask questions about it. Just open the door before the logical mind puts a stop to your magic. Yeah, thanks everybody for watching. Yeah, just keep listening to these stories from other near-death experiencers. Everyone that I've heard so far really lands and resonates with me, and people bring back so many special things to teach. So keep watching and keep learning.